doing, dear? Come here, baby. Sefat. Trash. Adonai sefatai tiftach ufi Yagiti Tehilatecha. Adonai, open up my lips, that my mouth may declare your praise. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam oseh maaseh barashith. Before Abraham was, I am. Adonai eres bien. Eres perfecto. Adonai ki tov. Kadosh, 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 Adonai Sevaot. Holy, holy and holy is Adonai of armies. Isaiah, Yeshayahu. Ana Adonai Hoshi Ana Ana Adonai Hatzli Chana O Hashem save us O Hashem prosper us. Psalm 118:25. Barashit bara Elohim et ha-shamayim ve-ha'aretz ve-ha'aretz Haita tohu v'bohu v'choshech al penei v'ruach Elohim merechefet al penei hamayim. Barashit Genesis chapter 1 verses 1 through 3. Baruch atah Adonai Adonai ki tov Hashem Gidol Adonai ata tov Vesadik Enar Kehei Ein Proston Theon in orke in halogas kai halogas ein pros theon kai thein halogas in orke in halogas kai halogas in proston theon kai theos in halogas. The good news of Yohanan, chapter 1, verse 1. For as the body without the spirit is dead, so faith without works is dead also. The letter of James 2 verse 26, English translation. Canaanite woman came. Rabbi, please heal me. It is not fitting for the master of the house to take food from the little children and give their food to the dogs. Yes, Rabbi. But even the dogs are privileged to eat the crumbs that fall from their master's tables. Your faith has completed you. Go in shalom. I am the way, the truth and the life. No one comes to the Father but through me. Do not judge him for his height. Adam sees the outward countenance, but Hashem sees the heart. You shall not have any Eloah before me. You shall not misuse the name of Hashem, to misuse it. Adonai will not hold him guiltless who misuses his name. Fought the good fight. I finished the race. I kept the faith. It's one of my favorite passages in the Brit Chadashah. Because Paul, formerly Shaul, what is he saying there? This was right before his head was chopped off by the Romans. This is a man who knows he's going to die. And he writes, I have fought the good fight. I have finished the race. I've kept the faith. And this is near the end, I believe his last letter before he was executed. It's near the end of the letter. And then he's sent some additional, relatively formal words near the end. But Paul was an educated man. He was both a Roman citizen and a former Jewish Pharisee. He was raised in this combination of worlds where Roman culture, Greek Hellenized culture, and Jewish culture all collided. Of course, even at that time, there might have even been other elements, small elements of Arab polytheistic culture, and so on and so forth. This was a man who knew he was going to die, and he didn't back down. There were times in the more central areas of Paul's letters where he seems to get more emotional. The beginning and the beginning and endings of his letters, much more formal. Much more formal. He was an educated man. But he gets very emotional sometimes in the content of his letters, very poetic. Love is patient. Love is kind. Love keeps no record of past actions. Some anti-Paul polemicists will make certain claims. Like one of the claims is that he makes is that he didn't know Jesus. He didn't know Yeshua. However, his claim to have seen Rabbi Yeshua doesn't seem like anyone opposed it based on the records we have. At least not in the end. He quotes Rabbi Yeshua directly. If I'm not mistaken, I think it was Peter who didn't like Paul at first. I don't know that he was initially convinced that he was truly called by Adonai. And what's interesting, I think in one of his later letters, I think he actually sends a greeting to Peter, which would, or vice versa. I think there was some indication that whatever animosity they had toward one another seems to have been quenched. A lot of anti-Paul polemicists will say things like, well, Paul taught a different Yeshua. And yet, in Paul's writings, it seems that he has one of the earliest iterations of a creed. It seems many scholars seem to speculate that once Paul had met the disciples and or other Christians, that St. Paul was introduced to a very early iteration of the Christian creed. Many people speculate that the creed that he cites was an example of an early creed. Now, in Koine Greek, they didn't put quoted text in quotation marks. They would cite certain things sometimes in certain ways by saying things like it does seem that they would intentionally cite it by bringing like the Torah says, as Scripture says, well, they didn't have quotation marks. Now, in modern academic writing, we can either use quotation marks and then cite it, or we can, especially for larger blocks of text, if you're using APA style, you can have the quotation just indented, no quotation needed, and of course you still want to cite it if it's for an academic work. But in Koine Greek they didn't have that, but they still would often allude to where these quotes were coming from, as the Scripture says, as the does not the Torah say this? I mean, but when it came to Paul's creed, even if he was quoting an earlier source of those words, you know, there's a good chance he would not. Oh, the high tide! Look at that, high tide, very high tide. That's like the ramp than it usually is, like a good 10 inches than when I usually see it at night. Check that out. Did I say 10 inches? I meant like 10 feet inward of the ramp. I don't want to say higher because the ramp's on an angle, but it's like 10 feet, and I don't really feel like doing the geometry right now. But it's like, I would say about 10 feet, about further up the ramp than I'm used to seeing it at night. There's a bird of prey. Looks like the bird of prey has a fish. I don't know if you can see it in the camera. Oh wow, right above me. Definitely had a fish. If you rewind it a few moments, whoever just came on, there was a bird of prey, flew right over my vehicle, had a fish in his or her talons. I love watching the water glitter in the distance where it's rippling. A lot of it's not rippling, but even the smaller ripples, we can see the difference, the variations in the silhouette of the trees, and the silhouette of the silhouettes of the trees going against that white and blue background. And see, this would be beautiful. I wish I had a pen and a sketch pad and a pencil with a sharp tip on it and a sharpener, because I would love to draw those lines in. That's one thing. I studied fine art for my second undergrad, and drawing was never my forte. I never really got into drawing in the way that many people do, drawing faces. There are certain things when it comes to drawing, but when it comes to drawing the natural elements of a tree, or of tree bark, or tree stump, or drawing birds, I'm very good at that. But when I studied fine art at Towson, I was not particularly good at drawing humans or most animals, but yeah, birds and trees, things of that nature, I have the most experience in, and quite frankly, these are things I want to draw. And if you want to do something, you tend to become much more talented at the things you want to do, in contrast to, you know, as a child, I practiced that. I practiced drawing trees. I practiced drawing birds. As terms of other things, I never, you know. And when I studied art at Towson, unfortunately, a lot of the professors, a significant quantity of them, they just like, okay, draw this. There was no like formalized training or practice sessions or anything like that. It was expected that you already knew it and that you were just going to show off what you already knew. And unfortunately, I think when it comes to art programs, that's a very dangerous road to take, because you should be working to, I think, in art education, if you're getting hands-on and not just studying art history, which is something else I did as well, But when you're getting hands-on, I think it's very important to critique the work of the students, talk about the process they went through, walk them through the process, and see how they can do it better. I think it's pivotal when doing art to consider different styles and consider modes of improvement. And if a piece of art turns out terrible, well, what could I have done differently? Reflection, introspection, and if a work turns out really good, well, what did I do? What didn't I do? What could I do differently next time? It doesn't always have to be improvement. It could also be, what could I do differently? Now, to be fair, many of my professors did have this, they did have this kind of approach whereby the idea was, let's critique it. Let's try this style. Let's do it this way or that way. I'll get out of these people's way. Let's, it's gorgeous though. I love the little wooden pillars just hanging there. I presume those are probably set there before the flood that we had here. It might have been a small pier or something, or part of a small pier. It's also possible that was to guide ships. The rest of it got destroyed. That's quite common here. Well, that's quite common anywhere there's water, but it's not surprising that part of it would have broken off because of the flood we had. We had a massive flood. Destroyed the entirety of the boardwalk. We could literally see chunks of the... I remember as a child seeing what part of the boardwalk just floating there after the flood. And I think it was still severely high tide, but the flood had caused the boardwalk to be completely destroyed. There were probably parts of it that were still up, which they probably tore down to build the new one. Now, personally, I would have kept the old portions up if it wasn't for a lot of legal issues that do arise. And one of the legal problems that arises with that is if it's not done just right, or something, and potentially sue the city that has rebuilt it. Now, with the number of volunteers that exist in this area, free maintenance wouldn't be out of the question, and I think that's a simple answer to the problem. I mean, it's undoubtedly there will be another flood. Undoubtedly. Oh, I see where they built onto the house. Ugh, and they use the modern architecture. I love some of these houses, but I wish they would keep the brick inlay or the old-fashioned stone inlay. These days they surround their houses with these cheap plastic. Grandma did that to her house too. I don't like it. I mean, like, when the brick is too neat, I think it still doesn't look great, but it looks better than the plastic. There's a church here, and they had these giant rocks. I'm assuming it was made in the 1800s. Giant rocks. And these are massive, massive rocks. And they were put in, and they don't all look equal. They definitely do not. And what's a shame about the thing is they built a ramp for people in wheelchairs, which is lovely, but they ended up using machine machine cut rocks, and cheap rocks at that. And then that part of the church is flat. Now, I hope they kept the original rocks, but yeah, I don't think they should have done that. The back door was already there. I think all they had to do was incorporate a simple ramp. And it could have been a slight, something that went outward a little bit so that it still fit. And it might have taken them an extra moment or two to get into the church. It might have taken them an extra minute, an extra 2 minutes to actually get their way into the church. Or not minute, sorry, an extra few seconds maybe. Well, maybe like 30 seconds more, but if they'd done it that way, they wouldn't have destroyed the original architecture. I don't think people in wheelchairs would have really minded all that much if they had to go slightly farther. Maybe the people pushing the wheelchairs when that occurs. But honestly, I mean, these older people are often leaving a substantial portion of their wealth to the people pushing the wheelchairs. I think if it took them an extra 15 seconds to get into the church, they would be fine. They would live. Like this house, I love the way they did the rock here. It's still a little bit modernized, but beautiful. Location, maybe not the best. There are people constantly going around. Especially during this time of the, well, I don't know, it's kind of lovely too. There's no, I have a bad feeling about that house though. I don't know what it is, but this is like my childhood home. So something bad probably happened there or near there or something. Some old memory probably makes me not like it. Maybe just the hurt of losing our home here. But my old childhood eye doctor. Beware, private property. And they put the sunroom there. It's funny because it's a trailer, but with the sunroom especially, it's like one, two, three, four. Looks like it's like an 8-room trailer. It's very thin. Okay, maybe 4-room. It's a very thin trailer. So maybe a 4-room trailer. Honestly, for one person, that's probably more than enough. Like some of these houses aren't much bigger than a trailer. I mean, they have these ones have an attic. So what is that? Like probably like an 8-room house there. Probably like an 8-room house there. This house might be a 4-room house. Oh no, they got an attic too. So maybe like a 5-room home. And they built more. So they built more homes over here. Yeah, have any grace. And then the other cheap homes over there. A lot of these homes by the road, I don't know if I would want to live in them or not. There are times when you're just relaxing, but it is lovely to see the cars go by. A friend of mine from high school lived in that house. I still see her sometimes. Don't get a chance to talk to her, but I see her around. Her and her boyfriend still dress like they did in high school. It's kind of hilarious and cute. Sometimes, Mom, it's not a phase. And I think that's beautiful. In its own right. You know, people, regardless of what we might say, like some of us might feel inclined to be, oh, they're just trying too hard. No. No, I don't think that. And I also think for her and her boyfriend, if they find that look attractive to one another, I mean, how beautiful is that? I mean, imagine how many of us, male and female, fell into an attraction to the emo look when it was popular in the early 2000s. All over MySpace. Imagine you have imagine you dated one of them. And imagine they never stopped dressing that way and acting that way. I mean, wouldn't a part of you just be kind of in love with that? If you were attracted to it then and you're attracted to it now, you know, I mean, that particular look. So my friends who harbor that look, it's or not that look, but friends of mine who harbor a look that they had since high school, if they're still with their partner since high school, and they both have a love for that look, and they're attracted to it in each other, I mean, isn't that the way married couples should be? I had an experience with a girl. Once I started giving her money, she changed the style of clothing she wore. The style of clothing that I found attractive on her. She went from tight jeans, socks and shoes, and t-shirts, like college girl kind of look. She went from that to like a clothing style that turned me off completely. And it was to represent her elevation and status. But you know, the problem is I didn't fall in love with you because you had a certain level of status. I fell in love with you partially because you wore attractive clothing. And I found that clothing attractive. And when you changed your style completely and your personality completely, I'm not attracted to this fake person that you invented because you think it's what attractive or what should be attractive or what represents my new status. And that's kind of I would say my advice to a lot of men and women. Is before getting into a serious relationship, I think one of the things that's important to communicate is that, hey baby, if you ever change the way you dress and act when money starts coming in, I won't want to be with you anymore because you're becoming a different person than the one I fell in love with. I think it's important to communicate these things early, and like communicating too, like I think you look really good in this. I think you look really good in that. I like this about this outfit, this about that outfit.